Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment has been out for almost a month now, and I still haven't found a single review that actually covers the whole experience, one that touches on every major aspect of the game and gives an honest opinion. So that's what I, Makerman, will be giving you today, straight to the point, no fluff, no sugarcoating. This video is completely spoiler-free outside of TOTK's storyline, basic information from the trailer, and core mechanics. For clarification, I've broken this video into 4 parts, beginning with Chapter 1, What is Age of Imprisonment? Released on November 6th, 2025, Age of Imprisonment is the latest Warriors-style Zelda spin-off developed by AAA Games Studio and published by Nintendo. Like Age of Calamity, it follows the Musou style of large-scale, high-intensity battles. However, it isn't just another alternate timeline side story. This time, Nintendo came fully committed. AOI is a canon entry and a true prequel to every Wild-era Zelda game, wherever those fall on the timeline. It covers the ancient era surrounding the Imprisoning War, the same conflict described in Tears of the Kingdom, but explores that era from the ground level through the eyes of soldiers, leaders, and several new characters such as the Korok Companion and Mysterious Construct. In addition to expanding the lore, it also fills in the emotional and narrative gaps TOTK left open, answering lingering questions about the death of Sonia, the sages, and the origin of key events without contradicting canon. By making storytelling a priority, AOI is noticeably cutscene heavy, and in this case that is a massive strength. Where TOTK relied on brief memories and static speech bubbles, AOI leans into full cinematic scenes, with excellent voice acting and meaningful direction, making the story feel confident instead of supplemental. But a good story is worth nothing if it has clunky mechanics, which leads us to Chapter 2, Navigation. The Purapad functions as the home screen, your central hub for everything the game has to offer, allowing you to choose missions across the surface, the depths, and even the Sky Island. Missions break down into main story battles and smaller, more optional fights. Story missions are the backbone of the narrative, while smaller ones help gather materials, complete quests, unlock abilities, and strengthen your roster. If you don't like short, repeatable encounters, these optional missions can feel more repetitive. However, this is due more to the nature of a Musou game than it is to a flaw in AOI. In fact, Nintendo tries to keep them meaningful by tying them into game progression. Beyond missions, the Purapad also offers training ground shops, challenge lists, and materials that can be used to enhance weapons and roster stats. But my favorite system is the camp feature, where you fine-tune upgrades before each mission, creating a satisfying loop of prepare, upgrade, strategize, and battle. Overall, the UI is clean, responsive, and intuitive, easily one of the most polished parts of the entire game. Now, a few of you have asked the question, is the actual roster any good? I will answer this by saying the roster is okay. Not mind-blowing, not disappointing, just solid. You get the characters you expect, including the key sages and representatives from each major race. It is not designed to shock you, but everyone on it is still fun to see and use regardless. But I think the true answer for why the roster doesn't feel underwhelming in this game is answered in Chapter 3, Combat. The combat in this game can be summarized in exactly 2 words. Actually, no. Because the combat in this game is so incredible that no 2 words will ever do it justice. Of course, you still have your standard attacks. The classic button mashing that in my case was happening faster than I impulse purchased this very game. But that's really just the surface level. There's an entire combat system underneath that keeps expanding the more you play. To begin, every character has their own unique skill set, not just different animations, but genuinely different combat identities. Some are fast, some are heavy hitters, and some rely on range, and others weave elemental effects or special mechanics into their attacks. Changing characters isn't just swapping a skin, it's a slightly different fighting style. This makes each character feel purposeful rather than a cookie cutter. Then you have special attacks. These are your big, sweeping, high damage moves that you'll use to melt bosses and interrupt their windup. They feel powerful and slot beautifully into the game's rhythm. But the biggest shakeup to the formula comes from the Zonai devices that are deployable mid-combat. Flame emitters, frost cannons, fans, balloons, and hydrants, just to name a few, all with their own styles and purposes. Whether you want crowd control, elemental damage, or a simple battlefield distraction, there's almost always a Zonai device that fits the moment. Your battery drains faster than I'd like, emptying in what feels like half a second before taking several business days to recharge, but is clearly designed this way to keep the gameplay balanced. Another standout mechanic is the Sync Strike system. Whenever certain conditions are met, characters can combine their abilities into a sort of supercharged team attack. These are not only visually impressive, with animations smoother than a stick of butter, but they add depth to coordinated play, especially if you're playing with someone else. the timing, quality, and the satisfying blast of damage all make Sync Strikes feel like AOI's version of a cinematic finish. In a nutshell, the combat in this game hits a sweet spot. It's fast and flashy, but dynamic enough that it doesn't feel like you're endlessly mashing buttons. You're actively choosing weapons, deploying devices, triggering special attacks, and reacting to enemy patterns. It feels big and chaotic in the best possible way. But now, the final verdict. This is the question you've all been waiting for, unless you haven't been waiting, in which case may the goddess Hylia rain fire upon Sorry about that. But before the final verdict, please consider subscribing. It genuinely helps me out. Plus, if you enjoy Zelda content, it's basically a win-win. So, should you buy Age of Imprisonment? And more importantly, if you don't already own a Switch 2, is this game worth $600? The short answer is no, of course not, because in this case, you're not buying a game, you're buying a new system. And it just comes with the opportunity to play all future titles on the upgraded console. And with such a small launch lineup, the incentive to get one might feel a bit thin right now. As time goes on, and with the Zelda 40th anniversary on the horizon, another perfect opportunity for Nintendo to toss another console paywall at us, I think AOI is a fantastic first game to break in the Switch 2. But is it really worth $70? Well, here's the truth. If all you're looking for is an open world exploration game like Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom, don't buy this game. If you hate repetitive Musou-style battles, combat, or long cutscenes, don't buy this game. But if you want deep Zelda lore, cinematic storytelling, massive large-scale battles, and fast, satisfying combat, then Age of Imprisonment is absolutely worth the $70. Unquestionably. It's bold, confident, fun, and easily one of the best spin-offs we've ever received. Thanks for watching, Makerman, and remember, your courage has awakened. Give this to Hesty.